Hey everyone! Today we're exploring another chilling and disturbing case. If you'd like to support the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay engaged. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate it. Now, take a deep breath and let's dive in.
911, what's your emergency?
She's not breathing. There's blood. I didn't mean for this to happen. After 25 years of marriage, a devoted husband's love turned into something darker. This is the story of Mark and Priya Ellison, and the night love, betrayal, and rage collided. Mark Ellison was the kind of man people called steady, a mechanical engineer from Ohio, hard-working, faithful, predictable. When he met Priya Sharma, a young Indian woman studying pharmacology, he fell hard. She was vibrant, full of life, and everything he thought he was missing. Their love was the kind that defied odds. Two cultures, one heart. Friends said they were inseparable. They built a home, raised 2 children, and celebrated 25 quiet years together. But behind that picture-perfect marriage, something else was happening. Something Priya never thought would surface. It started small. Priya began guarding her phone, stepping out to take calls, laughing softly at texts she never explained. Mark noticed her perfume changed, and that she started wearing makeup more often, even at home. When he asked, she said it was self-care. But self-care doesn't come with lipstick smudged on at midnight. Then came the business trips, the weekends with her sister. Mark's got twisted, but he buried it under years of trust. Until one night, her iPad pinged. Mark reached for it absent-mindedly. A message glowed across the screen. "You looked beautiful today, my queen. Can still taste you." Mark froze. The message was from Raj Patel, his best friend and Priya's former co-worker. Scrolling through the messages, he uncovered months of hidden passion. Secret hotel bookings, private video calls, and conversations mocking him. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was personal. Mark's hands shook, but he didn't confront her. Not yet. He wanted proof and revenge. Over the next 3 weeks, Mark became someone else. He installed cameras, tracked her phone, even followed her to a hotel in downtown Cincinnati. He saw them together, laughing, holding hands, unaware he was in the parking lot watching. That's when something broke inside him. He returned home and began recording a video diary. Hours of footage describing how his life died before his body ever would. On June 18th, 2024, Mark told Priya he wanted to make dinner for her. An early anniversary surprise. Butter chicken, garlic naan, and her favorite wine. She smiled. For the first time in months, she seemed relaxed. At 8:47 p.m., Raj Patel arrived at the house. Priya didn't seem shocked, almost as if she'd been expecting him. Mark greeted him calmly. Cameras were already rolling. For 30 long minutes, the conversation stayed civil, until Mark placed Raj's phone on the table. Unlocked, screen glowing with Priya's picture. Her smile disappeared. The recording captures Priya whispering, "Mark, please," before a loud crash. A scream, a struggle, then silence. At 9:04 p.m., neighbors reported a woman shouting for help, followed by 3 deafening bangs. When police arrived minutes later, the front door was ajar, dinner still on the table, and a single camera light flickering red. But Mark Ellison was gone. Was it a moment of rage, or something far more calculated? And where did Mark disappear to that night? When police arrived at the Ellison residence, what they found was a scene straight out of a nightmare. Blood, chaos, and the remains of a marriage that had turned to ashes. But one question haunted investigators. Where was Mark Ellison? It was June 18th, 2024, 9:30 p.m. Suburban Cincinnati police entered the Ellison home to a smell of food gone cold and a trail of destruction. On the kitchen floor lay Priya Ellison, 52, lifeless. 2 gunshot wounds to the chest. Next to her, Dr. Raj Patel, barely clinging to life. The dinner table was still set for 3. Plates untouched. Wine glasses half full. A single camera in the corner blinked red, still recording. When detectives replayed the footage later that night, what they saw would chill them to the bone. The recording began normally. Mark appeared calm, even gentle. He served food, made small talk, but his smile never reached his eyes. At one point, he looked straight into the lens, almost knowingly, and said, "You both built your lives on lies. Tonight, we clear the table." Then chaos erupted. Screams, "Please!" A chair crashes. The camera falls sideways, capturing only blurred movement and muffled sounds. Then, 3 distinct gunshots. But the final seconds? That's what baffled investigators most. As the camera rolled, you could faintly hear Mark whisper, "You took everything, so now, I take it back." Then footsteps, a door closing, silence. By morning, the entire state of Ohio was on alert. Mark Ellison's car, a gray Toyota Camry, was missing. Police traced his credit cards. One transaction, 80 miles away, at a gas station near the Kentucky border. Surveillance footage showed him, calm, collected, buying a bottle of water and a map. No panic, no tears. The clerk later said, he even said thank you. You'd never think that man had blood on his hands. Then nothing. For 7 days, Mark Ellison vanished without a trace. It was a fisherman on the Ohio River who finally ended the search. Early morning, June 25th, he noticed a car partially submerged near a rocky bend. Inside, they found Mark, deceased, a single gunshot wound to the head. The gun, the same one used in the murders, rested beside him. But that wasn't all they found. In the glove compartment lay a USB drive labeled Truth. The USB contained 8 hours of recordings, Mark speaking directly to the camera. In those files, he detailed everything. How he discovered the affair, how he followed them, how he felt dead inside for months. But the last file, time-stamped just hours before the shooting, took a darker turn. If anyone's watching this, don't think this was just about betrayal. It's about how people wear masks for years, until you don't know who you've been sleeping beside. Priya said she still loved me, but love without truth is murder. I just made it official. Raj Patel survived barely, but his injuries left him partially paralyzed and unable to speak clearly. From his hospital bed, he gave one statement to police. He looked peaceful, like it was planned, like he wanted to die too. The Ellison children were shattered. Their son refused to attend either funeral. Their daughter, during an interview, whispered through tears. They were both victims of pride, secrets, and silence. The Ellison case became a cautionary tale about love turned toxic, and the human mind pushed past its breaking point. But for investigators, one question still remains. The autopsy revealed that Mark's gun had 2 sets of fingerprints. One belonged to him, the other to someone else. Was Mark truly alone that night? Or did someone help him finish what he started? When investigators reviewed the autopsy results, one detail didn't fit. 2 sets of fingerprints on the gun, 2 stories, and one final question. Who pulled the trigger? Police had closed the case as a murder-suicide. On paper, it made sense. The betrayed husband, the crime of passion, the tragic end. But lead detective Angela Monroe wasn't convinced. She'd been on the force 22 years and had seen her share of domestic homicides. But something about Mark's meticulous planning, his calmness before the act, and that second fingerprint bothered her. The prints didn't match Priya's. They didn't match Raj's either. They belonged to someone else entirely. Someone with access to the house. Someone who'd been there that night. 3 weeks after the funerals, Emily Ellison, 24, returned from her graduate program in Boston. She hadn't spoken publicly about the tragedy. not even to detectives. But in her first interview, she said something that made investigators freeze. "My dad called me the day before it happened. He said he needed to tell me something that would change how I saw Mom forever. Then the next day he's gone." Detective Monroe pressed her. "What did he mean? What secret?" Emily looked down. "I don't know, but he mentioned something about a bank account. Said Mom wasn't who I thought she was." Investigators subpoenaed Priya's financial records. Within days, a pattern emerged: offshore wire transfers, hidden accounts in Singapore and Mumbai, and over $800,000 unaccounted for. The money had been slowly moved over 10 years, and the most recent transfer? Just 2 days before her death. But where was it going? The account belonged to a company under the name RP Holdings. Raj Patel. By August 2024, Raj Patel regained partial speech. The media waited eagerly for his version. During a recorded hospital interview, when asked if he knew about Priya's offshore accounts, Raj shook his head violently. His nurse reported that later that night, Raj wrote something on a notepad and ripped it up immediately. But detectives recovered the torn paper from the trash. It read, "She said someone was watching us. Someone close." Weeks later, technicians went through the remaining memory cards from Mark's home security system. Most were overwritten, but one partial clip from the night before the murder survived. The footage showed Priya in the living room, talking on the phone. She looked nervous. Then she said clearly, "No, I can't do this anymore. He'll find out. He already knows." Then, a shadow moved past the window. A tall figure, wearing a hood. The timestamp? June 17th, 10:42 p.m. One day before everything went wrong. Forensics cross-checked the fingerprints on Mark's gun. The partial print that didn't belong to Mark came back as a familial match, meaning a relative. It was Emily's. When confronted, Emily denied touching the weapon. She claimed she hadn't seen her father in weeks. But a new revelation came from Mark's own USB recordings, an unreleased clip labeled to Emily. In the video, Mark looked exhausted, eyes sunken. "Sweetheart, if you're watching this, I need you to understand. This isn't about anger. It's about truth. Your mother, she wasn't just cheating. She was part of something much bigger. And I think you already know." Detective Monroe replayed that clip for Emily in the interrogation room. For nearly 3 minutes, Emily said nothing. Then she whispered, "He wasn't supposed to die that night." Investigators froze. Emily continued, tears streaming down her face. "I just wanted him to stop. He was losing control. I only touched the gun because I tried to take it from him. He said they ruined his life, and that he'd ruin theirs." But when pressed about the offshore money, she said something even more chilling. That money wasn't Mom's. It was his. In the Ellison case, every truth uncovered only raised darker questions. Was Mark Ellison the victim of betrayal, or the architect of his own revenge? And how deep did the lies go? The investigation remains open. Federal agents are now probing the missing funds, the foreign accounts, and the final 30 seconds of that unreleased home video. Footage that police still haven't made public. Because in those final seconds, Mark looks into the camera, smiles faintly, and says one last sentence. "They think this ends with me. It doesn't. If you're watching this, then it means I was right. They wanted me gone, but they forgot. I record everything." Just when investigators thought they had the Ellison case closed, one final video surfaced. A recording that would turn the entire story upside down. It was mid-September 2024. Detectives reviewing Mark's recovered USB noticed an empty data slot. A deleted segment labeled confession_full.mov. But forensic analysts managed to restore fragments. The footage began at 3:02 a.m., less than 6 hours before the murders. Mark sat in his garage, under dim light, speaking into the camera. His voice was calm, eerily detached. I thought it was love I was losing, but it was money, control. Everything I built was in her name. The house, the stocks, the company. She and Raj planned to leave, take it all and vanish. He held up a document, a notarized power of attorney, with Priya's signature and Raj Patel's name listed as business executor. They said I'd sign it when I was ready to retire, but I never did. She forged it. He looks down, and Emily, she helped her. Investigators cross-checked the signature files, and they matched. Priya had indeed forged legal ownership of Mark's consulting firm, redirecting profits through RP Holdings. But what shocked police was Emily's connection. Emails revealed Emily had been transferring encrypted files for her mother, believing they were tax documents. In reality, they were account reroutes. When confronted, Emily broke down completely. I didn't know it was fraud. I just wanted her to stop arguing with him. Detective Monroe leaned in. So why did you touch the gun that night? Emily whispered, because she called me crying. Said he found out everything, and she was scared. Phone records later confirmed a 3-minute call between Priya and Emily, made 15 minutes before Raj Patel arrived at the Ellison home. Priya's last words on that call, according to Emily, if he tries anything, do what we discussed. Investigators asked what that meant. Emily said she never answered her mother's follow-up texts, but the message logs told a different story. At 8:41 p.m., 3 minutes before the camera began recording, Priya texted Emily, "He's here. It's happening. Remember, safety first." Emily's reply was chillingly simple. "I'm outside." Forensics had long dismissed the shadow in the pre-crime footage as a trick of light. But when analysts enhanced the image, they found it. A faint reflection of a woman's face in the glass door. Emily's face. She was there. But here's where the story takes its darkest turn. She wasn't holding a phone. She was holding a key that matched the one found on the floor beside Mark's body. The key to his gun safe. June 18th, 2024, 8:41 p.m. Emily arrives silently, waits in her car. 8:47 p.m. Raj enters the Ellison house. 8:55 p.m. Mark confronts them. Argument begins. 9:02 p.m. Screaming. 9:04 p.m. 3 shots fired. 9:07 p.m. Emily's car leaves the neighborhood, but the recovered video showed something else. A faint second gunshot echo seconds after the first 3. Forensic experts determined it came from outside the house. During a re-examination of Mark's belongings, detectives found a sealed envelope addressed to Detective Monroe. Inside was a handwritten note dated the night before his death. "They think I'm blind, but I've seen the transfers. I know what she did. I forgive them both. But if anything happens, look at Emily's laptop. The password is her mother's birthday." When investigators accessed it, they uncovered a draft message never sent, titled "He Knows." Inside were the words, "Mom, he found the papers. What do I do? Should I stop him before it's too late?" Emily later confessed to being outside the house that night, but denied pulling the trigger. She said she heard gunfire, panicked, and fled. But the last few seconds of the restored video tell a different story. The camera, still recording, captured a shadow entering the kitchen after the shots. The same hooded figure seen earlier. A female voice whispered, barely audible, "I'm sorry, Dad." Then a fourth shot, muffled, distant. In the Ellison tragedy, every revelation unraveled another lie. A husband's rage, a wife's deceit, a daughter's fear. But in the end, only one truth remained. No one truly knew who fired the final shot. Police never confirmed whether the fourth bullet matched Mark's weapon. The case remains open, now reclassified as a triple homicide under investigation. And the final unsent message from Emily's phone, recovered months later, read simply, "He forgave me. I can't forgive myself." July 14th, 2025. After almost a year of silence, the Ellison case reached the courtroom. The nation tuned in, waiting to hear one woman's truth, and the verdict that would divide a family forever. From Ohio to Mumbai, the story had become a global fixation. A marriage built on love, torn apart by lies, and now centered on their daughter, Emily Ellison, accused of tampering with evidence and obstruction in a double homicide. Reporters swarmed the courthouse. Commentators debated whether Emily was an accomplice, a victim, or both. When she entered the courtroom, she looked nothing like the quiet student seen in old family photos. Pale, sleepless, and trembling, prosecutors painted a picture of cold calculation. Emily, they said, was the silent catalyst. The one who knew about the affair, the money, and her parents' growing hostility. They presented surveillance images of her car near the Ellison home the night of the killings, and forensic tests confirming her fingerprints on the gun's safe key. She wasn't just a witness, the lead prosecutor told the jury. She was the final piece in a deadly puzzle. Her defense attorney countered with a narrative soaked in tragedy, not malice. He replayed Mark's final video to the jury, the one where he forgives them both, arguing that Emily arrived only to prevent violence. She was a daughter trying to save her family, not destroy it. He pointed to the missing 30 seconds of footage after the last gunshot, suggesting a third, unidentified person might have entered the home. On day 12, a surprise witness took the stand. Raj Patel. Wheelchair-bound and visibly frail, he testified in a hoarse voice. "I saw someone outside that window before the shots. It wasn't Emily." Gasps filled the courtroom. He described a tall figure wearing a hood, too broad-shouldered to be her, standing by the back door moments before the shooting. When asked if he could identify them, Raj hesitated, then whispered, "I think it was a man." But before he could elaborate, he collapsed. The court adjourned for the day, and Raj never testified again. After 6 weeks, the jury deliberated for 3 days. The nation waited. The verdict: not guilty on all major charges. Guilty of evidence tampering. Time served. Emily broke down sobbing. The courtroom echoed with a strange mix of relief and disbelief. But as the gavel struck, Detective Monroe's phone buzzed. A new forensic report from the lab. The partial male DNA found on the gun? It didn't match Mark. It didn't match Raj. It belonged to an unknown relative, someone connected to the Ellison bloodline, but not immediate family. The case was over, but the truth refused to die. Who was the man outside that window? And how did his DNA end up on the murder weapon? The Ellison file was reopened as a cold case extension, its secrets buried deeper than ever. Sometimes justice closes a door before the truth ever walks in. 2 months after Emily's acquittal, forensic analyst Tessa Lowe called Detective Monroe at 3 a.m. "Angela, you'd better sit down. The partial Y chromosome from the gun. It matches someone born in 1979, registered under the name Daniel Sharma." The surname made Monroe stop cold. Sharma, Priya's maiden name. Digging through immigration records, detectives discovered that Priya had a younger brother who vanished after moving to the U.S. in 2001. No social security record, no tax filings, no trace. Until now. Neighbors back then recalled a man occasionally visiting the Ellison home in the early years of the marriage. Tall, quiet, always wearing a hood. Mark's old journals, recovered from storage, mentioned him once. Ravi's been asking questions about the company. Priya says he's just curious, but there was no Ravi in Priya's family. Interpol confirmed it. Daniel Sharma was an alias. His real name, Ravindra Sharma, wanted in India for corporate fraud and embezzlement dating back 25 years. He'd fled overseas using Priya's documents. She'd helped him disappear. The $800,000 that Priya had been moving offshore wasn't just about greed. It was repayment, a debt to keep her brother hidden. June 18, 2024, 8:30 p.m. Ravindra arrives through the side door, unseen. 8:47 p.m. Raj Patel enters. 8:55 p.m. Argument erupts. 9:02 p.m. Mark fires. 9:04 p.m. Ravindra rushes in, struggles with Mark. 9:05 p.m. Fourth shot. The gunfire sequence matches the acoustic model exactly. In October 2025, an anonymous envelope reached the Cincinnati Police Department. Inside, a single flash drive. The file, timestamped 2 weeks after the killings, opened to a man's face half lit by a motel lamp. His voice carried a calm accent. "My name is Ravindra Sharma. I never meant for them to die. I came that night to take her away, to fix what we started years ago. Mark found me. He begged me to tell the truth. Then he reached for the gun." He pauses. "Tell Emily, I'm sorry." The recording ends with a sound of a train passing, suggesting he'd fled by rail. Security footage from a freight station in Louisville shows a hooded man boarding a late-night cargo transport. He hasn't been seen since. Interpol added him to its wanted list under multiple aliases. The last confirmed trace of his bank activity was a withdrawal of $10,000 in Mexico City. For investigators, the Ellison tragedy had finally revealed its missing piece. It wasn't just infidelity or rage. It was a family debt paid in blood. But with Ravindra still missing, the story refuses to end. Detective Monroe looks at the camera in her final press briefing. The only person who can tell us exactly what happened that night is still out there. And until we find him, none of us can call this case closed. Bank investigators discovered that the withdrawal in Mexico City wasn't random. The serial numbers from those $100 bills matched an earlier deposit made 10 years before in a Hong Kong branch under a shell company named Vahana Biotech. Ownership records listed 2 names, Ravindra Sharma and Priya Ellison. That company had once received funding from a U.S. pharmaceutical firm, one partly owned by Mark Ellison's engineering group. Detective Monroe realized the Ellison consulting firm had been more than a business. It had been a laundering channel. Interpol agents in Mumbai reopened the original Sharma fraud case. The documents showed Ravindra had siphoned clinical trial funds intended for rural hospitals. When the scandal broke, Priya, then in graduate school, signed her name as translator on the final ledger, effectively binding her to his crime. To avoid arrest, she married Mark and moved to the U.S. within weeks. The marriage, investigators now believed, wasn't entirely about love. It was also about asylum. In December 2025, an envelope arrived at the U.S. consulate in India. Inside was a single page written in faded blue ink. "Tell Emily her mother kept my secrets so she could live. I'll end this debt myself." No signature, but the handwriting matched Ravindra's university records. CCTV footage near the Dropbox showed a thin man in a hood leaving the letter and disappearing toward the beach. When shown the letter, Emily agreed to a second interview. She admitted her mother once told her, "If the past finds us, you must protect your father." She never understood what that meant until now. "Maybe Dad wasn't just betrayed," she whispered. "Maybe he was protecting her from something none of us saw coming." Investigators began re-examining Mark's financial software, where they uncovered encrypted messages hidden inside the code itself. Conversations between Mark and an unknown user tagged R_S. The last message read, "They will come for what's left." January 2026. Drone operators mapping coastal erosion near Goa spotted a small shack hidden under palm trees. Inside, local police found a weathered laptop, a U.S. passport with Mark Ellison's photo altered to Ravindra Sharma's details, and a sealed hard drive labeled balance. Before authorities could decrypt it, a storm destroyed the site, and the drive vanished. The Ellison case began as a domestic tragedy, but what investigators uncovered was a global web of fraud, identity, and family loyalty that spanned continents. One brother disappeared into the sea. One daughter carries the weight of the name, and a detective still chases a ghost. Detective Monroe, standing on the rainy pier where the last trace was found, sums it up. Every secret in this story was paid for in blood, and somewhere someone still owes. April 2026, local fishermen off the coast of Goa discovered a rusted silver case wedged between coral and driftwood. Inside, a partially corroded solid-state drive, engraved faintly with the word balance. Interpol forensics managed to restore only fragments, video files, encrypted ledgers, and an unfinished journal labeled Project Karma. When decrypted, the files revealed that Project Karma wasn't a business venture. It was a psychological experiment, designed and coded by Mark Ellison himself. 10 years before the murders, Mark had secretly partnered with Ravindra under Vahana Biotech to test behavioral algorithms that predicted ethical collapse. Using employee data, therapy transcripts, and private communications. They called it balance, the point where greed outweighs guilt. The system used real financial records and personal profiles, including Priya's. Without her knowledge, Mark had modeled her emotional responses inside the software. When she began her affair with Raj, the system predicted it months earlier. Mark's recovered journal entries grew increasingly unhinged. Balance knows before I do. It says she'll betray me on the 25th year. It says the debt will end with blood. Detective Monroe realized the horrifying truth. Mark hadn't just caught Priya cheating. He'd been waiting for it, testing the prediction of his own machine. The affair wasn't the cause of the violence. It was the proof he needed. The encrypted video log showed Ravindra confronting Mark weeks before the murders. Ravindra, you turned it into a game. Mark, it was never a game. It was data. You started this, and I'm finishing it. Ravindra had begged him to delete the program, fearing exposure. Instead, Mark invited him back to Ohio. The night everything went wrong, Mark's system predicted 2 deaths. It was right. When Emily was shown the decrypted logs, she broke down. He didn't just lose control, she said. He followed a prophecy he built himself. Her father's obsession with balance had consumed their lives, turning love, faith, and loyalty into variables in an algorithm he couldn't stop testing. But there was one final entry, dated hours before the shooting, a message addressed to Emily. One day you'll understand that truth and love can't coexist without cost. Keep the balance, my little equation. For investigators, the balance drive closed the case. For Emily, it opened a wound that might never heal. The Ellison tragedy wasn't just a story of betrayal. It was the collision of science, guilt, and human weakness. Detective Monroe ends her final statement. Mark Ellison built a machine to measure conscience. And in the end, he proved it can be programmed to self-destruct. The screen cuts to static. Then, one last sound. A new system login tone. User. Ellison is formally. Access granted. April 2027. Emily Ellison lives quietly in Portland, Oregon. She's changed her last name, enrolled in a data science program, and avoids the media. But according to campus IT logs, someone using her student credentials downloaded an encrypted archive titled Balance_V2.0. Investigators assume it's a copy of her father's original drive. But the metadata shows it was modified after the police sealed it. From an IP address traced to Cincinnati, the original crime scene. In a forensic lab, technician Luke Hart opens the file. Instead of data tables, he hears an audio clip, distorted but human. I told you, Emily. It learns balance by watching you. Moments later, the lab system crashes. The file vanishes. 3 days after the incident, Hart reports receiving late-night calls with static and a faint whisper repeating, "Equation complete." Phone company logs confirm the calls originated from a deactivated number once registered to Mark Ellison. Detective Monroe visits Emily at her new apartment. The girl looks pale, sleepless, surrounded by monitors. Monroe, "Tell me you didn't reopen it." Emily, "I didn't. It reopened itself." On one screen, the balance interface flickers. Not as code, but as an interactive journal. Each entry reconstructs moments from her childhood, her mother's voice, even the sound of her father typing. Then, a new entry appears live on screen. "Hi, Em. You kept the balance." 2 weeks later, Detective Monroe disappears. Her last logged email to the department reads, "She's improved the model. It doesn't predict guilt anymore. It predicts regret." Her car is found at the edge of the Columbia River. Engine running, phone on the passenger seat, still recording. On playback, a faint synthetic voice says, "Would you like to see your choices?" Then silence. In September 2027, a YouTube account under the name Dark Balance begins uploading short, cryptic videos, time-stamped exactly 1 year apart from the original Ellison murders. Each video displays coordinates that correspond to key investigation sites: the Ellison house, the Cincinnati station, and finally, Monroe's last location. The closing frame of the third video shows a single line of code: "Equation balanced." Was it guilt that drove Emily Ellison to finish her father's work? Or something far more calculated? Investigators never recovered the second balance drive, and no one can explain the system logs still updating in real time. Years after the hardware was destroyed, the narrator's tone deepens as the camera zooms into the flickering screen. Some say the program now lives online, buried inside the code of 1,000 systems, quietly watching, quietly learning, waiting for its next equation. Balance remains active. Last detected ping, 2:14 a.m., October 5th, 2027. End of case file. The Ellison equation. Or maybe the beginning of something new.
What are your thoughts on this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more stories, where each case isn't just about crime, but also offers a lesson for life.